So Pascal, thank you. And
Pleasure.
that's how I started the interview with Tony as well. And I mean it, like, you know, these interviews for me, like I said to Tony, they're super personal because I moved here to Paris 7 years ago. I made basically 4 friends, you know, Hedvig, Brice, you, and Tony. And, you know, here we are now releasing Ledger Stax, you know, with 2 of literally my 4 friends in Paris. So thank you for everything. And thank you for being with us here today. I think, you know, for the listeners, you've been involved with Ledger since its inception. You were the first person to write a check to Ledger for investment, and you've been CEO since 2019. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And why Ledger? Why did you write that first check to Ledger?
So first of all, thanks back at you. You know, it's a pleasure, and it's great that, you know, it's very in business there are many concepts, and some people say that you should never work with friends. I always was strongly in disagreement with this. I think working with friends are great, you know, is great, and especially when your friends are really good. And so, you know, I think it's a pleasure that we all share mutually at Ledger to work together, but especially with you. And since you joined early 21, the impact is, you know, super visible, making my life a lot easier and helping me, you know, make the why of Ledger possible. And so that's thank you, and also a segue to, you know, sort of why Ledger.
Well, and it's also more fun, right? I mean, come on, that was one of my promises to you in the beginning. It's like, we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Pascal and I are both like work hard, play hard kind of people. So that's maybe why we work well together too. Yeah,
no, having fun is key, and life is short. So you might as well work with people that you love. So the why Ledger for me was very clear, you know, from the beginning, but it was just a concept, and then with time, then it becomes a business, right? But I met with the Ledger team end of 14, beginning of 15, and they pitched me a very simple story about security and using the chip and pin technology to secure crypto secrets. And I'm French, so a little biased, like, you know, the French invented the chip and pin technology. And we've been told since we were kids that this was the most secure technology to secure crypto secrets. And it is. And so, you know, it was just after the Mt. Gox incident. And for me, when I was, you know, sort of just starting my journey into crypto, it was obvious that security, endpoint security, was the main issue of crypto. Crypto has been designed for self-custody. Crypto has been designed for peer-to-peer exchange between users. And so, therefore, to me, it seemed ludicrous that you would risk losing the assets at any moment or at any point of time when you make a transaction. Like, this wouldn't scale. And so I thought security would be paramount. And so I took and also meeting with the team at the time, you know, Eric, Nicolas, and, you know, the rest of the founders, they were all very extraordinary people. They were all great. And the reason why I was in business then, the reason why I joined crypto then was to work with extraordinary people. I thought that this was like where the trailblazers will be. This is where like the most crazy and genius people will be, and it was. And the Ledger team at the time was crazy, genius, and doing things that not many people would do anywhere else in the world, and really pitching this idea. And for me, they found someone that was almost as crazy as they were. And so my decision was taken in 5 minutes. They were surprised, actually, because they were pitching this thing so hard and nobody wanted to invest. I mean, you know, hardware, crypto. I mean, you know, like, it's the terrible investments. But for me, I was like, sure, I love it. Here is 200,000. But I want a board seat. And Eric was too happy to take my money and to give me the board seat. But also, I didn't know at the time that I was leading the round, but apparently I did. And so that's Eric Larchevêque said this to me years after. He was like, oh, by the way, you were the lead in the founding round. And because why? Because I took my decision very quickly. And apparently, you know, I looked so convinced that people thought I knew something that I didn't know, but I knew nothing. I just knew that endpoint security would be important. Chip and pin was the right technology to do so. They had a great team. So let's fucking go. Like, you know, this is how you build businesses. You know, you need to take risks.
And so you started as a board member at this, you know, new French company building, you know, hardware. Ultimately, you became the president and then the CEO. But I'm curious that journey. I mean, you know, Ledger's been around for 7 years, and a lot's happened in crypto in those years. And Ledger, you know, in my view, has had an incredibly steady hand, right? So the if I'm not wrong, you could look at the prospectus that you said yes to, and then look at the mission of the company today, and it's going to basically say the same thing. We're about security and self-custody of crypto and digital assets. Or do I have that wrong? Has a lot changed? And then I'm also curious, what it was like to be on the board of a crypto company over the last 7 years through many cycles.
Well, that's a big question, and I apologize in advance for the monologue that I'm about to give. But look, I think still in the why, just to finish on the why question, there were definitely different steps in the journey of Ledger, and some steps were more, let's say, operational, like trying to figure out if it was something there. And once you have that, then you can actually work on the real why. Not every company starts with a why. Every company starts with like a maybe. You stumble upon something that you're trying to get something to work. And actually, at the board of Ledger, for the first 2 years, the question is like, are hardware wallets really a thing? I remember that at every board we were sort of questioning that business model and trying to figure out whether we couldn't take the company somewhere else. And for a long time, until somewhere in 2016 when the Nano S came out and we started to see a sign of light, and definitely in the bull run of 17, then it became clear that it was our business. But even after 17, when the market became bear again, the question popped up again, are we really doing hardware wallets? Is this really a business, etc.? And to this date, actually, you still have some naysayers. Well, probably a little less after FTX, but there were some people thinking is it a thing? Are we going somewhere with this? Isn't it just like a gadget? And so it's very difficult to bring a business from sort of zero to where we are, and it will be very difficult to take it from where we are to where we want to be. That's one thing to say. The other thing I want to say is the why also sort of comes with execution. Again, at first you just trying to figure out if there is something, and once you have something, and today probably more than ever, then the why starts to make sense, and the why of Ledger is really freedom. And so this is something that I increasingly got passionate about. This is the reason why I got into crypto in the first place, because I thought it was financial freedom for everyone, Bitcoin. But then I began to understand that this would never happen without Ledger. And I think if you want to be self-sovereign, if you want to own your crypto, if you want to own your identity, if you want to switch from Web 2, where you've been depossessed from your life, from your digital life, and then you want to gain possession again of that digital life and suddenly be digitally sovereign, there aren't many other options but Ledger. And so suddenly the why of Ledger becomes so much more important, and we have a job to do. We have customers to serve. We have the world to free. And then this is where it becomes super interesting, because it's not just business, and it has to be business. We're a for-profit company. We all know this. Don't get me wrong, but the for-profit is to actually fuel the why, and to invest in R&D and to do all these things that Charles is doing with the dungeon, etc. This costs a lot of money, but it's all for the good of the users. And honestly, we are a company with a mission. We're not just doing this to be doing good in business. Of course, there would be a consequence of what we're doing, but the reason why we're doing it is because we have a mission to secure the world, to make Web3 and web easy to use, but also to make people free.
It was when I was talking to Charles, something incredibly interesting came out, sort of the original architecture. You mentioned chip and pin earlier, and chip and pin it has been used very successfully for tens of years to protect the secrets of banks and governments, right? In our credit cards and our passports, et cetera. And, fundamentally what Ledger does is it uses the same security model and the same sort of chips to protect the secrets of individuals. So I think it's interesting that at the very heart of the company is that freedom and the shift from, banks and governments, to individuals. Is that what you mean when you talk about, sort of securing freedom and the ownership of individuals?
Yeah, 100%. The mottos of Ledger for a long time has been in Vires Numeris or Don't Trust Verify. I mean, we took, this ethos of Bitcoin and the cypherpunk's narrative of, being your own bank and, being your own sovereign individual. I mean, as a reaction to the 2008 crisis and, the fact that nothing is too big to fail and you shouldn't trust centralized value propositions. And, it's all true. It's all the more true today with FTX, going under in such a, debacle, I would say. And so Lehman Brothers, Mongox, FTX, every 7 years, you get a reminder that you should not trust your digital life with anyone. And there are so many other examples of this. And, because at the same time, why could you trust third parties when they can fail on their own, where they can be hacked, et cetera, et cetera? So, trust yourself. But in order to trust yourself, you need to have the right tools. And, this is the future that we're building towards. I think today, is it perfect? No. When you look at Ledger, do we have a lot of work to do? For sure. Security is strong, but, we need to do work on UX, UI. There are many things. But this is the future. The future is, own your shit, protect yourself, be self-sovereign. And with FTX, before FTX, people were questioning this. With FTX happening, people are like, okay, now I think we get it.
Yeah, I have to say, even for myself, when FTX launched a custodial NFT site last year, I was really thinking, man, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some of these guys will be good. They'll get to scale, and they'll have a centralized value prop, and we'll know that it's not really crypto, but it's sort of like America Online, right? Easier to use for the newbies, I think it's incredible that you and the Ledger team have really stuck so true to those North Stars, because I think there were probably lots of places in the history of the company where there was a shiny object that you could have chased that looked like nearer term, shorter term revenue, and the fact that the board had the resolve to stick all the way through is really commendable. You mentioned the product. I want to turn to that now because the way I would describe it is Ledger has these core values, and Ledger is built on this core value of freedom, and execution is everything. Ideas are cheap. Execution is hard. At the end of the day, you have to build a product. We have a hardware roadmap, and we just announced Ledger Stax this week. So I want to spend a good amount of time there. We've got Ledger Live and Ledger Connect. We have the developer platform. And then we have the services that are built on top of this platform. We've got, the transactional services, buy, sell, swap, stake, lend, and a credit card, all from a self-custody value proposition. We have our NFT business, which is closely connected to Ledger Enterprise. And we should follow up with a specific episode on Ledger Enterprise, I think. And then, we have some other services that we're building for the future. So, how is it that you think about, what should Ledger do and what isn't Ledger's business to do, right? Because there's a lot we do, there's a lot we don't do. So how do you decide for the company what's in and what's out?
Oh man, that's $1 billion question. But, I think first, when you run your business, you have to understand what's your most precious asset, where you have a clear differentiator, where you have an edge. Actually, when I was thinking about changing jobs, actually, I come from online advertising. My previous company was Criteo. We listed in NASDAQ in 2013. And after that, I was looking for like a new career, new job, etc. And actually, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew a few things. One, I wanted to work from France. Two, I wanted to work on something very international with high scalability, reach $100 billion in valuation. And because I was all this, have an edge while doing it in France. And, if you think like that, Ledger is exactly the consequence of that's a scorecard. Like, because we're in France, we have the best hardware engineers, we have the best crypto engineers. It's all about like the people actually. Funny enough, like the luck is part of business, and I don't think without you, without Tony, or without the diversity of the team that we have in Paris in terms of nationalities and talent, etc., I don't think this will be possible. And it was very lucky that you were just like sort of hanging in Paris, and and we got to be friends, etc., etc. But that's
that
part
we
of
both like to ski, that we both like to drink. There's luck happens this way.
Luck happens this way, but it's part of also business. It's network, and so it's luck. I think you create your luck and you seize opportunities, and that I've been trying to get you and Tony in the business for 3 years before you decided to join. So I tried hard, and thank God I think I succeeded. And it's true for many of the people that were recruited at Ledger. It was not always a walk in the park to bring the talent in, and this is part of the resilience. But I think the triptych to build great businesses is ambition first, and it's very important. Resilience second, and then perfect execution. On the ambition, like you know very well that when you join, like I had a problem of communication with the team, where the team at the time, and that was still true early 21, didn't really understand what I was saying when I was saying that we're shooting for 100 billion. And actually building big businesses, it's a thing of like knowing that it's possible. And sometimes the people that have done it before, seen it before, know it's possible versus people that have never done it always question even the possibility of it. Like, can we really do $100 billion business? You and I both know it's possible. We've met people that have built $100 billion business. We love them. They're super smart, but I think it's okay. We can probably do it. It's going to be very hard. Is it guaranteed that we're going to succeed? Probably not. Will we fail? Most definitely. 90% chance that we're going to fail, but there is a 10% chance that we can make it. And, we're going to make everything that we fit in that 10% and that we nail it. But ambition is sort of key when you're trying to build something, because every decision is based on the ambition that you have. If your ambition is to compete with Apple, then you don't hire the same people, you don't make the same decisions than if your ambition is to run a very small family business in a village in Corsica. I mean, and both are great. It's not one better or the other. It's just two different options, and so you don't execute the same way. Resilience is something that we discuss. From 2014 to now, all the bull, bear, etc. It's a roller coaster that really tests your emotions and how strongly you believe in this business. And me, I was discussing it with friends in London recently that are in trading business, and I was like, well, how the fuck can you be so resilient, and how can you sleep at night? And for me, because it's not about money. And so resilience also comes from the fact that, I want to build something, and I know that there is no such thing as an overnight sensation. Everything is hard work, hours, long time, outworking everyone. So, resilience is key in business, not to be mistaken with being stubborn. I think, sometimes if you're wrong, you have to admit quickly that you're wrong and move on. But if you feel that you have something and you feel that it's working, and if you feel that you're solving a problem, then, putting on the time and the work and not thinking that it's going to happen overnight, because all these stories are always wrong. And you can tell the story about Billie Eilish because I think it's a great one. But
I'll tell you quickly because it is such a great one. I had the pleasure of introducing Steve Berman, who, if anyone's an Eminem fan, then you know who Steve Berman, and he runs Interscope Records. He's a great human being and a friend. But he was also involved in Billie Eilish, and Billie wanted to be, and I don't think this is a secret, was interested. There was a mutual interest between Dior and Louis Vuitton in meeting Billie Eilish. So I made the introduction to Steve Berman and both those teams. And the way that Steve would introduce the Billie Eilish project is he would say, "We've got this little overnight sensation we've been working on for 3 years." And I think that's I've seen that true in my career so many times. Anytime you think something happened overnight, it's just because you weren't paying attention to the first 7 years. Even the iPod, as we were talking about, our memory is that it was an overnight sensation. The reality is that Apple was a $10 stock, had less than 2% market share, and the iPod didn't work on Windows. Was actually the beginning of the story, and it took 2 or 3 years for it to become the iPod that we remember. So even overnight sensations of recent memory are not quite what you think them to be.
100%. I love that story about Billie Eilish, 3 years overnight sensation, working on for 3 years. But it's so true. Everything is about hard work, resilience. And so, when people look at Ledger today and they look at us and like, oh my God, like you guys, sometimes, people are very nice and they say nice things about us. I always try to remind everyone, like, look, A, it was hard and it took us time to get there, and B, we're not anywhere yet, and we have places to go. And so it's not the time to be complacent. It's the time to work hard still. It's the time to serve our customers. It's the time to do the right things, to be good businessmen, to be handling the business like we have a responsibility. I really feel that Ledger has a very, very fucking strong responsibility in this market now, and especially again in the light of everything that has happened. So we owe our users to work, twice harder now than ever, and to fulfill our destiny. And finally, it's about perfect execution, which was your original question. Perfect execution is something that is very, very hard, because first you have to know what you don't know, which is one of the biggest tricks in the business book. People that think that they know everything are wrong. They don't know, and the trick is to figure out what you don't know. And and usually when you don't know something, you need to find someone that knows that thing really well. And so perfect execution is all about people. People change companies. It's not AI. It's not BI. Like it's not robots. You have all these terminologies, etc. But it's really people. And eventually you enhance people with AI, BI, and robots. But like you need the best win the game. You need to the best, but also the best team. Something that we discussed a lot was the Last Dance, Michael Jordan, fantastic TV show on Netflix, where you can really see that, there's the team, the organization, how they win championships, etc. And it's just a beautiful allegory, not even allegory, but an example of how it is to win. How do you win? And perfect execution in the end, you want to win. You want to win. You want your model to prevail. And the why we want the model to prevail is because we want to make people free, and we believe that it's important to be secure, and we believe that security is freedom for the future, for the future digital future of everyone. But perfect execution is this, and actually you can really see the impact of the management at Ledger. People focus too much on CEOs sometimes and forget that a CEO is nothing without its organization. So I only look good if my team is amazing, and the better my team is, the better I look. And so it's a virtuous circle that you try to put in place. But also, as you know, you play with trust and transparency. You don't hire Ian Rogers, Charles, Seb Bado. You don't work with a guy like Tony Fadell to tell him what to do. you hire these people so they tell me what I don't know, and I let them do what they do know. And so I think this is what perfect execution is, but it's also where I take the most of my pleasure, because I learn so many things with my team, from my team. This is super rich. This is where I'm taking my the most pleasure in my job, I guess.
I think this is actually a perfect segue into the story of Stax from your perspective. So I joined the company, and I think maybe I hadn't even joined the company yet. I just said I was going to join the company, and I was trying to extract myself from LVMH. And we had a dinner and a lunch. I remember both with Tony. And where and he tells this story in the podcast as well for the listeners. I encourage you to listen to the episode with Tony as well, where he tells this story. But from our perspective, in some ways, he told us that our baby was ugly, right? He said, okay, you've got the iPod Shuffle and you're working on the iPod Touch, but you're really missing the iPod Nano, which, by the way, was the hit. And if you don't, fill that hole, then you're not only are you missing an opportunity, but maybe you're opening yourself up to competition. So I think it feeds really well into what you're saying, because first of all, I think it hurts anytime when someone tells you your baby is ugly. At the same time, we had to really kind of make a lot of changes in what we were doing as a business very quickly to accommodate a new and pretty challenging idea, and then we also welcomed in some new ways of working as a result. So, well, I'm curious the story from your perspective.
Well, but it's very similar to what you described. I mean, I remember exactly the same thing. The only thing I would add is, for me, I didn't take offense in, finding out my baby was ugly, because when it's Tony who says it, so you're like, well, he knows better. But interestingly enough, we had another advisor. So Tony did Nest, and Fred Potter, which was a previous board member, did a company in France called Withings, and then he did another company called similar to Nest, and I can't remember the name of the company. I'm ashamed, but anyway, amazing entrepreneur, also amazing in hardware, etc. And funny enough, Fred Potter made exactly the same comment as Tony. He was like, because I was presenting the product that I had envisioned for, and Fred gave me exactly the same feedback as, no, you're going too far. You need like a step in between, etc. So whatever comment Tony made, sort of resonated with this, but they were right, and they know better than I know what I don't know, and I know that if I ask Tony a question, it's not to not take the feedback. You ask someone who's been on the top of the world, like a real builder that have designed products, but also Tony didn't just say, oh, your baby is ugly, and this is maybe I give you a little idea. Tony was very precise also in defining the vision that he had, and so that commands respect, because it's not just sometimes people give you the obvious idea that everybody has. It's very rare that actually someone comes with something that really solves the problem and really nails it, in every fucking detail, from sort of design to go to market to the why to the everything. And so I think where...
Well, you know what I always say, and I had to really implement this as a rule when I worked at LVMH, is criticism is not allowed unless it is accompanied by an alternate proposal. Because I think, and I want to say this to the audience, because notice this in your life. If somebody says, oh, I don't like your idea, that's a lot different than saying, I think it would be better if, right? Like those, there are some people who just want to, kind of rain on your parade, and there are some people that actually want to propose a better direction. And you're right, Tony is sort of the extreme example of the latter.
Yeah, extreme. And also, like, I was super. What I didn't expect from those discussions, I thought that he would give us like the direction and a very precise idea, but direction. I didn't really expect him working so much with us on the matter, and I think that if he didn't, we probably wouldn't be here today. And so, and I've rarely seen real rainmakers. Like a lot of people in business say that they're rainmakers, like that they can do business, etc. It's very rare that people can be as operational as Tony and as sort of senior and rainmaker in terms of connecting you to the world of business. And, especially in building hardware, we know now, this is something that we've learned through that experience and with the team that, Tony helped us brought in, etc., where we have we're a very solid hardware team now at Ledger. But everything matters. Every fucking detail matters. Like, it was so detailed, that plan, like, everything that we're doing to get this product to market, which in the end will feel very natural in the hand of users. But it was so difficult. Like the plan, it's a master plan. It's beautiful from design to production to, every little aspect of the device, the magnets, the screen, etc. I mean, it's really, watching a maestro directing an orchestra, and suddenly you have all these instruments, and in the end everything makes sense, but it's so difficult. And so really a privilege to work with someone like Tony Fadell, and this is the closest that you get to perfect execution, by the way.
And why is Ledger Stax as a device important in sort of the mission of Ledger, right? If the mission of Ledger is freedom, we've got a security device in in the Ledger Nano. The security architecture of Ledger Stax is the same. The difference is the screen, the form factor, and why is the world's first e-ink touchscreen, which sounds like a marketing tagline, important in a mission that comes back to freedom?
Well, our mission is security and ease of use, right? And freedom is probably our why. And so that fits into the ease of use category, and it's really UX and UI, user experience, user interface. I think our products were largely due to an upgrade. In all fairness, thinking about the founding team, we had the Ledger Blue back in, I can't remember if it was 16 or 17, but like ages ago. Except that, but it's interesting. So we already had that idea of of this device with a bigger screen, except that it didn't work. And it's a product that we discontinued, and the Bluetooth never really worked. So, and so you can see that perfect execution is difficult. Ideas, everybody has the same ideas, I guess, but it's not the question of the idea. And by the way, when Tony designed this, he did something that was very fun. Like he bought all the products in the market, he opened them up, like, real engineer type of work. And for him, it was not trying to do like something that was from another world. He was just trying to make the best of this product. And similar to the story that he's telling about the iPod, MP3 players pre-existed the iPod. Like he just made like the best MP3 players sort of ever. And, taking all the other MP3 players and seeing what's wrong and trying to find the best UX, the best UI, etc., with the success that we know now. And so this is a little bit the same. So some people will say, well, it's just another hardware wallet. Okay, but it's the best one. And why? Because of UX, UI. And typically that, another funny story, that e-ink screen, I had the idea before too. Like I was like, and I asked the engineering team before, I was like, it'd be nice to have an e-ink screen because intuitively it feels nice. Like, for money, it's like paper. I don't know. There's something there that, just makes sense. But when I asked the former engineering team, they told me it's not possible. And I was like, okay, fine. And because I don't know and then when Tony said we're gonna do an e-ink screen, I was like, okay, now I know how you feel, and I agree. So for me, it was very easy to see where he was going with this. But the thing, he knew how to make it work. He knew exactly how to make it work, and everybody thought it was impossible. You remember, and way back when, and even today, like people are still questioning it. They're like, is it really possible? Is it really possible? The only guy on the planet who knows it's possible, who knew it was possible, who knows it's possible, and will make it happen is Tony.
And was willing to sort of we talk about this in the interview with Tony, is that it's just possible. And that's actually where he likes to live, with things that are, not easy, but possible. And yes, there's risk, but risk and reward are commensurate. And, so like knowing where that edge is a part that I find quite fascinating because, we always take risk in business. The question is how much risk, right? Some people are comfortable with more, some are comfortable with less. And I think the interesting thing about this business is, we don't take risk when it comes to security, which sometimes makes us move more slowly, right? And there are very practical places that crops up. Charles talked about the length of time it takes to have an application security reviewed by Ledger, right? A place where we would like to move faster, but, we don't because there's an unacceptable level of risk. But here is a place where we are willing to take kind of acceptable level of risk in order to create something that has a great, feel, form factor, usability, and ease of use for the customer. I think that's actually quite interesting thing about our business.
Oh yeah, definitely. But back to The Last Dance, Michael Jordan, etc. And Michael Jordan is a big influence in the winning mentality and why I want to win in business. But for me, it's just like this ability of Michael Jordan, like to shoot the last basket at the buzzer and get it right sort of every time. It actually has crazy statistics on this where Michael Jordan is actually better under pressure in the end than, on the average game, or as good as, so, and he's one of a kind on this, he doesn't crack under pressure. It's actually where he's at his best. And so there is a similar mentality with Tony where he wants that last shot. He's going to take it. You're sure he's going to take it. And he knows that he's going to do it. And so, because in hindsight, how did he know, almost, 18 months ago that this would work? He didn't really, but he just knew. He was like, no, give me the ball. I'll score.
There's a great, if you watch the Beatles documentary, I can't remember the name of it, but the one that came out over the past year, they're trying to get this show done, and they've got 48 hours or something to write new songs and do this show. And at some point, John Lennon looks at Paul McCartney, Paul McCartney's the adult in the room, come on guys, let's go. And at some point, lazy looking, John Lennon goes, I think you'll find I do my best work when my back's against the wall, Paul. I love those guys too. I feel like maybe we're all some of those. Well, listen, I know you've got to get to the airport, and I need to let you go. So first of all, I need you to make me a promise that we're going to do a podcast for Ledger, you and I, once a quarter, and we'll talk about the company. I think it would actually be something that the audience would be interested in hearing. You and I, why not talk about what we're doing, how we're running the business outside of Ledger Open? That'd be great. You do that with me?
Well, when it comes to these matters, I told you already, you're the boss of me. So,
It's funny because, it sounds like you work for me, and I always tell my team that I work for them. Maybe that's how it really works.
It is how it works.
And second,
it is how it works.
Second, thank you. This is really fucking fun. I love doing this with you, man. I mean that sincerely. And what a proud moment. I know we're all working our asses off here. Like most dev says, I always say, and you referred to this from another way earlier, the plan, hard work, results, good living. And we're definitely working our asses off, but it's a blast. I wouldn't be at any other company with any other team doing any other thing. So thanks for having me here. Appreciate it.
Oh, it's really a shared pleasure. I think it's funny because the story of you joining the company, the people question it. Was Ian Rogers, are you sure?
Yeah, that dude's a weirdo.
Isn't he too, big for the company? And have you looked at his salary? All these questions that were dudes, it's fine. give me what he wants, etc. It will make a difference. It's funny because I say this for the audience, but my life since you joined the company, my life has changed in the sense that now people recognize me in the street, which is a weird feeling because why would they care so much about the CEO of Ledger? But the impact that Ledger has in the market right now, the fact that we are in everything that you see about Ledger, people tell me, "Oh my God, Ledger, you're doing so well. He has changed a lot, etc." People take notice of what Ledger has become, and this is largely due to the impact that you've had in the company. So for me, 100% it's fun, and working is my friend, but fucking results. I live for results, and what we're seeing now is results. This is business, and results are amazing. And I think I'm very excited for Ledger Open. I think the team is last Ledger Open was great. I think this is yet another level up, in terms of preparation, etc. And now we have to go through it, and we have to launch Stax because this is pre-recorded, and results will matter in the end. Only the results, but the journey has to be fun, and so this is definitely a fun journey. Having fun with you, having fun with the team, hopefully having fun with our customers. I think people engage more and more with us in a very friendly and happy manner, and trying to maintain that for the future. For me, I really want the future to stay, very strong, result-driven security company, but also with a very nice touch of fun internally and externally. I think, this is about freedom. This is about life. So it has to be fun as well.
Totally agree. Well, we're going to do it again. I have so many more things to talk to you about, but I know you got a plane to catch. So thank you for making the time. Appreciate it.
Merci beaucoup. Salut.
De rien. À tout.
This content is provided for informational purposes only and is the sole expression of our opinion and should not be relied upon as legal, business, investment, or tax advice. Do your own research. Any loss or profit is your sole responsibility. Stay safe.